Welcome to the Aloha Insight Report Builder and Custom Line Item webinar. Our agenda for today, pretty small agenda, is go into Report Builder, and Report Builder is made up of groups and line items. All right, so we'll discuss those a little bit when we get into Report Builder, and we'll take it one step further. We'll take some of those line items and actually customize them for our report. All right, so that's our agenda. What I'm going to do here is just share my desktop with you. And when we come into Insight, everything we're going to be doing today is over here under the Aloha Insight header. All right, so if we open that up, basically we're going to go to the bottom and you'll see Report Builder down there, and all the way at the bottom is Report Viewer. Now, most of you are familiar with Report Viewer. There's stock reports there that we give you that are easy to set up and just run. But there's times when you're in Report Viewer when you'll see a line item in one report that you really like. You'll go to a second report and see another line item in there you like, and you want to bring those two line items together. And you cannot do that in Report Viewer. All right, and that's exactly why Report Builder and Custom Line Item were created, so you could create your own reports. All right, so as we go in here, if we go into Report Builder, what you're going to see, it's a basic screen here within Insight. I have some here already, but if you haven't created any yet, if you're coming in for the first time, this will be a blank white box, and you'll have to click the Add button to start your report. Otherwise, if you've got an existing report like promos and comps here, you can select it and you can go in and edit it. So I can change information in there. I can delete it, which would take it all the way out of the system, or I could copy it. Let's say that I've got this promo and comp report with certain promos and comps, but I want to do another report with promos and comps with those same ones but with additional ones on top of it. Well, I can just copy this, add those promos and comps to it, give it a different name, and save it, and I don't have to recreate the wheel of starting all over again. All right. Down at the button you'll see a Run Now. Run Now will let you run your report if you've scheduled and everything, but you want to run it right now before the schedule hits. That allows you to do that, and we'll do that with our report. We'll come back out and do that. You'll see down below here it defaults to showing your custom reports, but you could switch that radio button out and look at all the custom reports that are in your organization. All right, so that's a you may get down there and see, hey, somebody else had created that same report that I don't have to create it now. I can use their custom report. Down at the bottom, you'll see View Properties. So any of these existing reports, you can view the properties on. And a lot of people overlook it, but this little question mark is Online Help. So when it loads, you'll see the books over here on the left that you can drill down into. A little dark there, but you'll be able to click on those books to drill down into various aspects of Insight. And over on the right, it will drop you out into the applet you're currently on, which in our case is Report Builder. All right, so just a little tutorial there, a nice little read if you're wanting to read a little bit more there. And now as we go in, then we'll create a new one by the Add button, as if we didn't even have a report here, and it works the same as if none of these fit the bill. I need to put a new one in. We'll just click Add. And one thing you'll notice right up front here is we have an active flag. So we talked about deleting a report, how it would take it all the way out of the system. Well, here we can just make it inactive. It still sits around in the background until we're ready for it, and then we can flag active and get it back again. So if you're done a report and you think you may need it again in the future, you can just make it inactive instead of deleting it and save yourself from recreating it. As we get down here, you're going to see a name, the word name field with a text box, and anytime you see the word name, that entity will show on your report. Now here on the entry screen, it's really important because whatever you put in that name field is going to be the title on your report. So if I go in here and I say, hey, we want gross sales and net sales. Now, in our demo site here, we got people creating reports all the time, so I want to make this unique. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put a date on here. All right, now that should be unique. All right, we get down in the description field. The description field does not show on your report, but allows you to give yourself information on the report that you're creating. So I could say this is for my Southwest stores, or this is for my East Coast stores, or maybe this is for all my stores. All right, so it's for your usage, and you can just leave yourself notes there. Will not show on the report at all. Next, we have a style and a category, and the style is critical. Basically, we give you a ton of styles. I'll just drop down here and we'll come back and talk about some of these. But if you can see, there's a lot of styles here, but it defaults alphabetically to ACPAC, which is a general ledger. And we've had some people do this. I don't want you to make the same mistake in the fact that they ignore the style. They come down here and save and continue. And when they get to the next screen, what they're seeing is that everything pertains to general ledger. And so they say, well, I'll just back out and change my style. But when they do that, if they come back here and they take the drop down, they will not see all these styles anymore. The only ones they'll see is other general ledger ones. So ACPAC would drop down, it would show you MAS 90 and Peachtree and QuickBooks and Solomon and all those, but you wouldn't see any of the others. So they don't really have a choice, if they didn't want general ledger, is to back out, delete it, and start all over. And I don't want you to make that mistake. All right, so pay attention to your style because it is critical. When we go down here, you'll see a bunch of comparative things that you can do here. Let's just do a date range to last year. And down below here is an example so you can see exactly what your report is going to look like. So there's our comparative to last year. As we go down below all these comparative ones, and again, you can, when you get in there, you can read all the comparative ones with stores and same day last year with report groups on top and things like that, dates on top. Here's a graphical bar. So you can pretty well guess what that's going to look like, but basically here it is. And so you can do graphical bars if that's the kind of report style that you want to choose. Now what I'm going to do is we'll drop it down to the bottom here, and again, as I go down here, you're going to see that we can group by dates, by weekdays, with different things, stores on top and things like that. As we get further down here, there's report groups with stores included and stores grouped by regions and areas and things like that. But the one I'm going to choose today is a single column key stat style, and I'll take it with a submenu. All right. Now, as we got our style in there, let's go ahead and look and see what our report's going to look like with an example. So when we're said and done, this is exactly what our report should look like when we're all said and done today. All right. So there's a little preview of it. Now, the report category is not critical like style is. We can change this at any time, and again, it's similar categories that you see in the report viewer and things like that, but can be changed easily. All right, so I'll save that for the end, towards the end of the webinar, and we'll come back and switch that out. So we're going to save and continue. And now basically the next screen is pretty dynamic because what it allows you to do is choose the security classes within your organization that you've created that you are going to allow to view your report. So anybody on the left-hand side, security class-wise, will not be able to see your report. Anybody that you move over to the right-hand side with the arrows has access to your report. All right, so that's pretty dynamic because by security classes, you can automatically lock out people from viewing your report or just bring people in to view it. Now, once you've got all your security classes that you want to view your report, you just click Next, And that brings you to the main screen of Report Builder. So over here on the left is the little preview window. If I take the little slide bar here at the bottom and move over, you're going to see how that name field became the title of this report. So there's your gross sales and net sales with a date on it. Now it tells us there's no groups. So the grouping for Insight is kind of like what you would see on your POS report. All right, if you go in there on your POS report, you see things like gross sales, net sales, promos, comps, things like that. That type of grouping there is similar to what Insight considers a group. So basically, when you look at the groups, you have to think about what your end results are going to be on your report builder. All right, so in our case here today, it's pretty straightforward. I need a group for gross sales and I need a group for net sales. All right, it may not be so straightforward sometimes. You know, if you're working on a loyalty or a restore value type report, you know, then you really need to look and see what your final results that you want to obtain on those reports and group them accordingly. Or it could be somebody from HR or somebody came to you, or accounting and wants you to create a report for them. You really have to pick their brains to see what kind of information that they want to end up with and then group those things accordingly. All right, so to do a group, all we do is hit the Add button. And when we hit the Add button, again, we have that name thing, which means that whatever I put in here is going to show on the report. All right, so if I go in here and I say, hey, I want this one to be gross sales, and all I do is save it and continue, and what happens now, it puts my first group in the group screen here, and look at the preview window now. We have our little key stat style starting to take shape here with our very first group, gross sales, listed there. All right. Now, as you build your report, you can build it out a couple different ways. So I could start with my gross sales group here, edit it, start adding line items to that group, get all my line items that I want for that group, then come back here and create a second group and start adding line items to it. All right. The second way of doing it is just building all your groups up front, which I'll do. So I'm going to come back to the Add button. I'm going to add, and now I'm going to say, hey, what I'd like here is net sales. And I'm just going to save and continue. All right. Now, as we look at this, go over to the preview here, you'll notice net sales doesn't populate here yet because the rule for Insight is you have to have at least one line item in that first group before the second one will show. So as soon as we put a line item in gross sales, net sales will populate over here. Now, I'm not finished because what I want to do is I want to create a third group for my report. And what I'm going to do, I'll change it up a little bit. I'm going to say I want gross dollars, and I want to subtract my net dollars. Okay, so that's a group where I want to save and continue. And again, now I've got three groups that I'm looking for on my report. Again, you can create as many groups as you need, but those are the three we need for today. And again, the preview only shows the first one because there's no line items in there yet. All right, so we can start with any group, but I'm going to go back up here to gross sales, and now I don't want to hit the Add button because that would add a fourth group, which I don't need. What I'm going to do is edit the gross sales, and it takes us to the line item screen. All right, and you can see we get a confirmation up here that it is our gross sales group, but tells us there's no line items. All right, so in order to add line items, we click the Add button, and that brings us to a two-tab screen. And on the left-hand side, you'll see your line item options, and the other one is advanced options. So again, we come in with a screen that shows us line item name, so that's going to show on our report. All right, and that is a user-defined area. So you can put anything in there that you would like. But we try to help you out as much as we can here. So as we move down into the categories again, if we take the drop down, you'll see the different ones here. But alphabetically, it starts with loyalty. So here are all the line items associated with loyalty. And some of them will have asterisks, like this little one down here. If it does have an asterisk, that is a line item that is customized by somebody within your organization. So that we'll end up with one of those today when we create our custom line item. But anything without an asterisk is there for you as a line item all the time. So if we look at loyalty, go over here to the little scroll bar, again, there's a lot of line items that you can see just in loyalty alone. And as we go through, you're going to see that each category has those line items that you can use. Now, as we look at it, we could pretty well surmise that back here in the sales is where we'd find gross sales. And we'd be absolutely right, all right? But you do have a search tool over here, these little binoculars. If I click on the binoculars, you can search for what you're looking for. So if I search, hey, I want to look for gross sales, and I search this, basically what happens is it cuts down your category. So you can see I've got void and sales. If I go into voids, it's a void as a percent of gross sales, and it's a custom one somebody had created. So if that's what I was looking for, I can just pick that and be done with it, all right? But otherwise, if I go into sales, we'll see gross sales, but we'll see a lot of gross sales, by hour, by category, by just sales category, revenue center, that type information. All right. So as we do this, the search, very easy to find your things. Now, if I'm limited by my categories, though. All right. If I want my categories back, all I have to do is click the binoculars a second time, and now we get all our categories back again. All right. Now, you'll see as I select capital gains here under sales that populates automatically up here in the line item name field. So we try to help you out. If I want cash card dollars, it changes to cash card dollars. Now, we can see how well that search did because here we are in the sales category, and there's far more than just gross sales in here. All right, so if, again, we go over to the scroll bar over here on the right and we go down, you're going to see that there is all those gross sales we saw earlier by the search, but also if we continue down, you'll see item sales, you'll see net sales, and again, order mode charges and things like that, refund dollars, and basically all the way down there. All right. Now, we wanted gross sales, so I'm just going to pick gross sales. Again, you'll see that'll put it up in the line item name field for me. And one other thing you have here, for any of these ones without an asterisk, you have a definition button of that line item. So if I wasn't sure what insight considered gross sales, I can hit the definition and see it, what it is. All right. Now, we have our line item. Now, the advanced options allow me to configure it a little more granularly. All right, so I can pick and choose certain things there. But before we leave that here, this little box down below here, if I ever want to display a line item as a negative item, that will show on your report in a red as opposed to a black field. All right, so as we go to advanced options now, basically you'll see that you can use a date range specified in your report settings. So as we come in here, what you're going to see is that you're going to line up with the same type screens that you see in Report Viewer. So I'm just going to give me the stores to choose, the report settings, and the scheduling, being able to schedule the report. All right, so that's saying, hey, anything that I'm going to do for date range, I'm going to default it to what it is in the report setting tab there when we get to it. But I can overwrite it here, and if I overwrite it, I've got the same choices that I have there in report settings, but again, you can see we give you a lot of choices there, whether it's current calendar week, company week, last company week, next so many days, last so many days. Yesterday is always available, all right? So you could change your radio button here to put it whatever you wanted to, and again, it always shows you the dates out here to the right, but that allows you to overwrite what's in the report setting tab. And the last one is a custom date range. So it starts with the current date. Let's say we're going to go out through the 31st here. What I would do is I'd get my gross sales starting on the 28th, running through to and including the 31st. But after that, I'm not going to get any new information. So what we need to do if we're going to do a custom date range, we got to pay attention to our end date because it's a static date. And we have to keep setting that out into the future as that date approaches if we want to keep getting results. You can keep doing that until you get tired of doing it, and then you can come back and either use your selected date range, maybe it's just last company week or one of those, or you can just default it to what it is in the report settings. Next section down, we allow you to work with your calculations and your format options. So on your aggregate function, you can see the default is there because Insight will do it for you automatically. But if you want to take control, you can choose sum, count, average, min, or max, and do it on your own if you want to do it. And on your display format, again, Insight will take care of it for you unless you want to choose a number, a currency, or a decimal. All right. Now, Insight does it, and again, for me, I let Insight do the work instead of having to physically do it, but your call there. And then the bottom section is really nice because it lets you modify your report even further. So I can only report it when this value is between or equal to or greater than or equal to or less than or equal to a certain number. So if I've got, let's say my average profit from any of my stores is $3,000. Well, what I can do here is I can say, hey, I want this report to generate if it's less than $2,000. So I can see my stores that didn't do so well. Or I could say, hey, I want it to when it's more than $3,500. So I can see my stores that are my star performers. All right, so you'll have a single box for all these except between. Between will give you 2, and that's what I'm going to do today because of our little demo database not having much information. I'm going to say I want the gross sales whenever it's between 0 and $10,000. All right, now I'm going to slide down here and click Next. And now what you'll see is we're still on the line item screen. I got my first line item, and look well in the preview window now. Because we got the first line item in the gross sales group, my net sales has populated on the preview window. All right, now, again, you can add as many line items as you want, but let's do one more here. I won't keep it, but I want to show you back here. If we go back into the sales category, and go down to our gross sales, I want to show you what happens. For instance, if you decided, hey, I want my gross sales by hour by category. Well, if you select that and you come down here and click Next, basically what's going to happen is there is that little indicator that anything longer than 30 characters may not be visible in some reports. It may get truncated. But again, remember, we're using the key stat style, which accommodates the longest of line items. So I'm going to say yes to that. Now, what Insight does, it stops you cold in your tracks. It says, okay, I'm not going to let you go any further because you said you wanted to do it by hour and by category, but hour first. And what hour do you want? So I can bring an hour over. Let's say it's my 2 p.m. hour. And all I do is bring it over with the arrows to the right. And what I would do here is I'd get a gross sales for the 2 p.m. hour. All right. Now, this screen, just so you know, I can bring all of them over, and still it's only going to give me one gross sales for all 24 hours. All right, I just get one number. All right, if I want to get a gross sales for every single hour, I just create each one of those as a separate line item. So I can get it per hour, but I need separate line items to do it. Now, once we got it configured, we click next, and the system says, whoa, you're not done, because you told not only hour, but by category. So which category? And it works identical. So if I bring over my beer category, I'll get my gross sales on my beer sales, but that's all I'll get. Or if I bring all the categories over, same thing. I only get one gross sales number, and the same layout would occur that if I want to get a gross sales on every single category, I just make them as separate line items. All right. Now, I'm not going to save that. We'll just keep our report with the way we grouped them there. I'm going to back out. Now, that's all I'm going to do is that gross is still in line items. That's a gross sales line item. I'm going to save it. And now if you look at the preview window, my gross sales group has a gross sales line item in it. All right. We'll go to our next group and we'll edit it because we're on the group screen. It tells us there's no line items. We get the confirmation above of what group we're in, and now I click the add button on the line item and we go through that as well. All right, so we'll just kind of review here because we know where these are. I'm going to go down to sales. I'm going to go down to my net sales, and on my net sales I want to do the same thing. I'm going to come in here and leave it the way it's set in the report settings. I'm going to leave the defaults, but I want to report this when it's between 0 and $10,000. Okay, just because of our little demo site not having a whole lot of information. And I'm going to click next. And when we do that, we have our line item net sales in our line item group, and because we've done that, our third group is on the preview window now. All right, I'm going to save this. Now, let me show you here. If I come in here and again I edit my third group, I want gross sales minus net sales. Tells me there's no line items, so I have to add. Now let me show you this. I go down to sales, I go find my gross sales, and now on my line item name I come up here and I say, hey, I want my gross sales minus, all right, and now I go down and pick my net sales. But I can't do it. I click on it and it won't go up in there because you can only put one line item at a time here in your report builder. All right, so what happens now is I've got to back out of here. So I'm going to back out, go all the way back to my major screen here, and this is where custom line items come into play because I've got two line items now. I've got my gross sales and my net sales, but I want to subtract my net sales from my gross sales. All right, so I come down here on the preview screen and hit custom line item, or I can go under Aloha inside header and choose it over here. Either way, it brings me into the custom line item box. And again, this is what it looks like if you have not created one yet. So you get to see what that looks like. Similarities to Report Builder, we can edit any one that exists, we can delete any one that exists, we can view the properties of any one that exists. As we go down below here, it's got the same, showing your custom line items. You can always flip that to show all the custom line items in your organization. You can see our little demo site, there's a lot of them. It's taken a while to load. There they are. All right, and the same online help here, only this time your main screen would be on custom line item. All right, so let's add our line item that we need. And again, a name field is going to show on your report. All right, so I'm going to keep it the same as my group name. So I'm going to call it gross dollars minus net dollars. Description field works identical to Report Builder. You can leave yourself notes on exactly what you've done here on this line item. Again, the category is custom, Remember, category is not critical. It's only the style in Report Builder. We can change this out at any time. But defaults to custom because this is a custom line item. We'll change that out here in a minute. Now, the format does not help you. Insight will not do this for you like he does in Report Builder. So we have to tell what it is. Is it a number, is it a currency, or is it a decimal? Well, it's a currency in our case. Now, that brings us to a very cool part, which is the formulary. And in the formula, you can insert numbers, you can insert line items, you can use operators, or you could clear your formula if you get so frustrated and want to start over. All right? So if we look here, as far as operators, I can't use any of them. They're grayed out except for the open parentheses, because the open parentheses is the only viable syntax to start a formula with. So if I click that, you're going to see we got an open parentheses. Now if I want a number, all I have to do is click on the insert number box, put my number in there, and then click insert to get it into my formula. All right. Now the open parentheses is grayed out and all the others are highlighted. So now I can divide that by 12, insert, close parentheses, and divide that by something else so I can keep going. All right. Now let me back out here for just a minute. If you need to delete something, what you do is you left click. All right. You don't want to right click. If I right click, it's Internet Explorer choices. So you want to make sure you left click if you need to delete something. But right now my line item is lit, so I can put line items in there. But look what happens if I delete my operators that are in front here. It's grayed out. All right. So anytime that you have your line item grayed out, all you have to do is put an operator in there to get it lit up. All right. Now, if I go to the line items, it's the same categories that we saw in Report Builder. All right. And remember, it started with accounting. And when we went into accounting, we saw all those line items in there. All right. So basically, if we come down our list here and we find sales, we're going to see that sales is by far and away the biggest. It's got 58 line items in it. But if we open that up, it's the same thing we saw back in Report Builder. So there's all my gross sales by hour, by category, and gross sales, as well as item sales and net sales and all those things we saw back in Report Builder, identical here. So all I do if I want to put it in my formula is I click on it. All right. You can always go back up to the top here and get a confirmation that that is exactly what I've selected. So I can see my gross sales. Now, we'll come down to the bottom and click Done, and by clicking Done, that's what puts it in my formulary. So now I've got my gross sales in there. Now, all I'm going to do, I wanted to subtract, so I'm going to take my minus sign, go back to line item, come back to my sales category, and this time I'm going to go down to my net sales. Okay, select it. Again, I could go back up to the top there if I want to and confirm it. There it is, net sales. And then basically just click and Done to get that into my formula. Okay, so let me get my mouse working over here. There we go. Now, that is exactly what I wanted. I wanted my gross sales minus my net sales. If I wanted to divide that by something else, my item sales or whatever, I could keep on going. All right, but that's exactly what I wanted for my formula. So I have some stuff here I don't need in the front, so I'm just left clicking. And again, as I left click on an operator, you can change it to any other operator or delete it. If it's a number, I can edit the number, make it a different number, or delete it. All right, so we're just backing out here to get rid of all the stuff that we don't need in our formula. And whoop, get this last one here. There we go. And so there is exactly what we wanted. Now, one thing nice about the formulary, if I forget something, like you'll see the little red indicator here is after net sales, but we have these gray rectangulars here to click on to insert. So if I want to go on that first one, all I have to do is click on it, it turns red, and now I can put a number or whatever I want in there, insert it. All right, now once you got your formula built, if you come down, you can test it if you want to do this. And all you do is you pick one of your stores. So I'll take my Fort Worth downtown store. You have to pick a date. So if you're not doing current day polling, you got to choose yesterday's date of business. And now when I test it, first thing it's going to tell me is you have to save it. All right, now watch what happens when I save it. It comes back and it tells me, hey, your formula contains incorrect syntax. So Insight will protect you as you build your formula. If it's not right, it'll tell you that. Now, it doesn't tell you exactly what it's wrong with it, but tells you that you can't save it the way it is. And we know that we can't start a formula with a number 1. So I'm going to left click and delete that. And I'm going to test it again. And it tells me I have to save it. Now, there it is. And okay. So it's telling me I've got a duplicate line item. I forgot to put a date on here. And again, because of the demo site, so all I'm going to do is go up here and add to this. I'll just put a 12 after there and see if he'll like that one. So let me test it again. I'm going to say yes, we're going to save it. And now what he does is he pulls the Fort Worth store. You saw that little flash there. He pulled the Fort Worth store and brought back results of $144.12. So I know I've got a viable formula. All right. Be careful here. Let's say, for instance, I'm doing something with loyalty and I've got 20 stores, but I'm only using loyalty at 10 of those stores. Well, if I want to test my report, I want to make sure that I've chosen a store here that carries Insight. Otherwise, I'm not going to get any results. All right, so we're good to go. We've got our line item that works. It looks fine, so I'm going to save it. Okay, and I get a little message, hey, this line item, if it shows in any report, any changes here will be reflected. And I'm going to just say, okay, that's fine. No problem there. And then what it does now is back out on the blank screen that we came in on, we now have an entry of our gross dollars minus our net dollars. We've got the date, we've got the time when it was modified, and who did it. So we got a little audit trail here on your line items. Now, we have that line item that we wanted, but I have to go back and put that into Report Builder in its group. All right, so we can come back to Aloha Insight, go back down here to Report Builder, or if it's easier for you, we have these tabs across the top of your open applets, so you can just jump to Report Builder there. Now we can go to gross dollars minus net dollars, edit it. Tells us there's no line items. This is where now I can add. We left it in a custom group, so if I go to custom and I go down to the G's, let's see, gross less faxes, let's see, there we go. There we see it, gross dollars minus net dollars, and that, remember, we put a 12 after it, and that's the reason I had to change the name, because somebody had created one, gross dollars minus net dollars. All right, so there is the one that we're looking for under that custom category. Now, I told you could change out those different categories, and so basically I'm going to move that to a different one. I'm going to go pull up the menu here to refresh it. I'm going to jump back to my custom line item, select it, edit it, or actually view properties would do, so I can see here the category is custom. So what I'm going to do is change that. I'm going to edit it, and now I'm just going to change that category from custom, because I figure, hey, if anybody's looking for my gross dollars minus my net dollars, they may look first in the sales category. So I'm going to put that in the sales category. Again, when I save it, I'll get that little message that this will be modified in any report that this line item is in. All right, so I'm going to say OK to that. Now, if we go back to Report Builder, instead of looking at the custom, if we come down here to sales and we go down to the G's, there is our gross dollars minus our net dollars. Now, I don't have to do advanced options because I've already done it on the gross and the net, so this will reflect that. All we have to do is come down here like we did before and click Next. And now, if we look at our preview, there is my total report. I've got gross sales group with a gross sales line item, net sales group with a net sales line item, gross dollars minus net dollars group with a gross dollars, net dollars line item. All right, so I'm going to save it. Now, this is where we get things rolling. So I click Done at the bottom right. We see our little report here now in Report Builder. We'll select it. And this is where we run it now. All right, so if I run now, this is the tie-in to what you see in Report Viewer. All right, because you've got your store selector. I'll leave it at all stores. You have your report settings. Remember, I defaulted to the date range in report settings, so that's yesterday. And again, you have the date confirmation over here. Over on the left-hand side, we could view the report now if we wanted to. If you look here on the bottom right, you've got a Save button. But if I flag View the Report Now, that button changes to a View button. And now you could view your report. Okay. We're going to list it on the portal. You could email it to yourself. Just typical things that we see in Report Builder. Be careful about the share report with all users. That one will open up your report so anybody could edit it. And that's not exactly what you want. So be careful with that one. Here's our report name. All right, the way we left it with the date on there. Over on the right are your report options. Depending upon what kind of report you're building, these can change. But this one, for gross sales and net sales, says, do I want to list my stores separately? Yes, I do. Do I want to list the dates separately? Well, I don't have to do that because I left it on yesterday. If I put it on last company week and I wanted to see all 7 days, I can flag that. All right. It's going to come off as a PDF file, but I can change that. It can be a delimited or Excel or rich text format. I'll leave it at PDF. I can control the format language in there if I want to do that. Obviously, I'm going to leave it at English. Do you want to suppress currency symbols? So if I didn't want to see the currency symbols in my gross sales, net sales report, I can flag it. And again, I can put a logo on there. Any logo that they've loaded in company settings. All right, I'll just leave it the way it is. Now, what we've got is we're all set to go. So basically, you know, if I didn't want to schedule it, that's all it takes. But if we want to schedule it, I'll schedule it so it goes to the top of the portal here. I won't belabor these, but we do this in the intro webinar. But any hour, any week, any day, you can just go through here and configure it as you like. If I say once as soon as possible, all right, and then down at the bottom here, it defaults to sending it to you. All right, you can send it to other users if you want, but they have to be in a subscriber group. All right, so again, we cover this in the intro webinar, so if you want to see creating subscriber groups, you can reference that to see how to set those up if you wanted those to go to a group of users. And then base your stores report on subscriber security is a dynamic flag. Basically, if you've done your homework when you set up your users, particularly your store managers, your regional managers, your area managers, and you put those individuals in there, the store managers in their home store, the region managers in their home region, the area managers in their home area, and given them security classes, that say they can only see either their home store or selected stores for the group, for the area manager or the region manager. What happens with this flag now, like I'm doing here, I've chose all stores to send this report to. All right, so basically now when that report goes out, it's got all the stores' gross sales and net sales, but when it hits one of my stores that the store manager is set up properly, basically he's limited to access to his own home store. So he doesn't see all the other gross sales and net sales from other stores. He only sees the store that he's got access to. All right, so we're okay here. Everything's looking good. We're going to save this, and you'll see it's processing. Where it's processing is on the portal. So if we go over to the portal here, there's our gross sales and net sales. It's processing. All right, it says, and there it is, it just finished processing. You'll see that basically the scheduling interval expired. So if we take the little info bar here and click on it, we'll see the information. So it's our gross and net sales report. It's in a custom category. Remember, I told you we were going to change that out here towards the end. Here's the date it was created, who created it. If it's ever modified, you can see the modification date and who did it, or if it's scheduled, who did it and what it was. So there's our run once as soon as possible. The calendar allows you to go back into your scheduling tab. All right, so it comes back here. I left that once as soon as possible. Now I want to run it at 9 o'clock daily, every single day. All right, because it's important enough. And all I have to do is save that, and those changes are reflected. All right, or the pencil is the report settings. So again, we can go in here and say, hey, it was yesterday. Now I want to do it last company week or whatever. All right, so those allow you to change it out. Over on the left over here, you'll see that we've got it with an Adobe icon because it's going to come off as a PDF. We can always flag it and delete it or rerun it. Okay. And now we got our little report. If I click on it, basically what's going to happen here, make sure we get it. Well, there we go, down below. We're going to open this in Adobe. A little slow on my machine, but he's thinking. There we go. And now get this thing blown up so you can see it a little bit better. Well, it kind of ruined my layout there with the lines and everything, but basically if you look here, it's a layout exactly what we asked for. We don't have the lines. We do have the totals, subtotals that we asked for. So here is my Fort Worth store. We have the gross sales group, the gross sales line item, and the value of that gross sales. We've got our net sales with our net sales number, and we've got our gross dollars minus our net dollars. So if we take our $15.83 minus our $14.39, we come up with $144. All right. Again, we asked for all stores. So as I scroll down here, you'll see there's my Houston Silverado, my Miami downtown, my New York City, my Omaha, all those giving me gross sales, net sales, and gross dollars minus net dollars. All right, so that's the report. Just as we leave here, one thing that you can do is give people access to your report in Report Viewer without giving them access to Report Builder or Custom Line Item. You do that with your security classes by taking those line items away from them. But we can go into Report Viewer, still see our report because we left it in a custom one. If we go in here, remember what we're looking for is our gross sales and net sales. So let's go down here to the G's, and there it is. There's our gross sales and net sales. And there's the reason I had to put that number on the end, is because there was one there already. All right. So if we come in here, there it is under the custom. I told you I was going to show you how to change that out here at the end of the webinar. It's much like we did on the custom line item. I have to refresh the screen. Now I have to come back to Report Builder, pick my report and edit it, and come down here to Report Properties at the bottom. And then basically what I'm doing is I'm taking my custom category and again changing it out to sales, because that's where most people will probably look for it. I save it, I'm done, and now if I go back to Report Viewer, I can go back down to Sales, and there is my gross sales and net sales report under the sales category. All right, so that is Report Builder and Custom Line Item. Just to kind of review what we came through here, we went into Report Builder and we saw that that was made up of groups and line items. Remember, those groups don't show until they get at least one line item in them. And then we took it one step further. We took our gross sales dollars and our net sales dollars, took them into custom line items and built a formula that allowed us to do that, and then took that custom line item and folded it back into Report Builder. So that is our webinar for today. I thank you for your time and attention.